Okay, well, thank you so much for calling in today. I have on the line Mr. Lee Fuller. I'm so glad to have you on the line. Are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Lee. I'm so glad to connect with you. I know that you were originally born and raised in Chicago, and you lived in Dallas and Los Angeles, and now you're in Trenton, New Jersey. Is that right?
Well, they like to say beautiful, scenic Trenton, New Jersey, but yes,
Oh,
that
okay.
is correct.
All
I
right.
still love the Trenton. So.
I got you. Well, do your shout-outs. But the reason for this call, and I really appreciate your transparency and your willingness to share your testimony. You know, I'm all about transparency and testimony and being a witness for what God can do in our lives. And,
Yes.
you know, in scanning my Facebook friends, I saw you, and I tell you, you made such a bold statement because not only were you transparent, but you had an actual visual to show what you were going through. And not many people would do what you did. You shared your eviction notice on the door.
Yes, yes.
Let's start there. What happened that day that you showed your eviction notice on your Facebook page?
Well, the interesting thing about that day is that that day represented, for a lot of people, what would be called the 11th hour, so to speak. I was at a point where I'd made arrangements with my landlord because I've been seeking full-time employment for several years. I mean, really since 2008. I've done contract work, all kinds of work, but sometimes those contract jobs will pay you when they choose to pay you, and it doesn't always time out for when, you know, your rent is due, et cetera, et cetera. And but had recently interviewed at a major university in Philadelphia and was awaiting confirmation because everything had gone real well in the interviews, and I'd even gotten a preliminary phone call a few days before saying, we're just trying to finalize checking with your references, and when we do, you know, we'll make an official offer. Well, moments before I walked out of my apartment, I was going to leave my apartment to go for a walk because I walk 6 miles a day. I walk and meditate. But before I left, I just, you know, set up just kind of, you know, you get a little feeling in your stomach thinking, I don't even want to go outside because it's possible there may be an eviction notice on my door because I knew one was coming. But before I walked out, I got a phone call confirming that I was actually hired in that position. So I'm in great spirits, but I walked out the door and there was the note moments later. So in the 11th hour.
What is the position? What's the position that you got?
Well, I'll be an academic advisor for the nursing department. The only reason why I'm not mentioning the university's name is because I haven't signed the paper yet. But
I understand. Yeah, well, that's smart. That's smart. That's really smart. I was inspired, and I saw you got so many comments because people need to see a testimony. They need to know that God will come in at the 11th hour. And Lee, as you've probably seen, I've been, you know, sharing the theme of resiliency and bouncing back. And I know that you survived the loss of a child, you've divorced, bankruptcy, and even brief homelessness. And yet in spite of all of those dark clouds, you also have done some very positive things. You write blogs and articles. You're an actor, right?
Yes, and that's when I met you. I had actually, after several years, my daughter was just starting college, and she actually told me, Dad, you know, you've been doing as much acting as you could, you know, in places like Chicago and Dallas. Why don't you live your dream and go to Hollywood? And when she literally gave me permission, the money I saved up, I saved as much as I could, as much as I thought you would need to be in Hollywood. Well, I found out you needed more, but I saved as much as I could. You know, went to Hollywood, did several TV shows, actually got 2 words on a CBS show called Mike and Molly. I got to say, hi, Molly. You know, that was
yeah, I've seen that show. You know what, I was fascinated. I was reading your bio, and I got really intrigued with your title. It says that you do a core presentation. I'm not sure if that's a stage presentation or a keynote, but it says, don't trip unless you fall forward. I like that.
Thank you.
But is that a one-man show, or what is that?
It has turned into a one-man show that I'm actually developing now that will include comedy and music. Because that's my journey, you know, while some people would call it, you know, really, really challenging, because it has been. But there are some lighthearted moments and lessons, you know, that I've learned and then learned from others who I've bumped into on this journey. And it came, the don't trip unless you fall forward came from back in, when I was younger. I was an athlete, and I had a football coach. I played running back. Wasn't very good, but I played the position. And he used to say, stop falling back. And you're tripping a lot. And he literally said, don't trip unless you fall forward. And I never forgot that. He said, make in advance. Always make in advance. Even if it's an inch, fall forward. I didn't know what that meant back then. It was just a football term. But as I've gone through my life and, tripped and stumbled, sometimes, unknowingly, and sometimes just, being ambitious and, stepping out on faith, that's a goal of mine, to, despite the obstacles, fall forward.
I really love that. It's a great visual for me, and I'm going to be sharing that, giving you credit for it for the first 5 times, and then I'm going to start taking credit.
Well, the goal is at some point, I'd love to, I've actually finished the book, have a published, but that's it. I mean, that's really, that's probably the central theme of my life.
And I remember you came a few years ago to my signature event, Super Goal Saturday, which has a football theme. Yeah. So for you to share that, it's just another punctuation, another reinforcement of this metaphor that I use about life being like a football game. So I can really see that falling forward instead of always falling backwards. And that also speaks to my theme of resiliency, that we have to bounce back. Yeah. And I'm always saying that the only direction that God knows is forward. That's the only direction. And I remember reading years ago, a woman said that her car transmission was broken, and the only direction it would go was forward. It would not allow her to go in reverse. And she said that really was her metaphor for her, that if her car was stuck like that and it wouldn't allow her to go in reverse, it only allowed her to go forward. I thought, what a great life lesson, that sometimes we want to go backwards, and we shouldn't. We need to keep moving forward. So even when we reflect on our losses, you've had the divorces, the bankruptcy, the homelessness, the loss of a child, as I've had a loss of a child. When we keep rewinding and going backwards and backwards, all you're going to do is create more grief, more sorrow, more sense of a self-defeated mindset, a sense of shame or a sense of guilt or a sense of heaviness, which allows us to get mired in the quicksand, and we can't move forward.
And we can't move forward.
So I really thank you for that theme, and I thank you for sharing how God came in at the 11th hour.
It's the 11th hour. And I'm not, right. And I think, what I had to share, and I certainly wanted to share this, I was not ashamed to post that particular setback. I know, I'm a male, I'm an African-American male, and, in this season of my life, it would be wonderful with the education and the background and the experiences to be able to walk into a lavish, home and, have all, the expensive cars, et cetera, et cetera. That hasn't been my journey. I've had some close calls with greatness. I've been around a lot of great people and had some opportunities that, didn't necessarily pan out. But I'm not ashamed that I was fighting, to keep an apartment in this season of my life. And I think there are a lot of people who I felt should know that sort of thing. You don't have to be ashamed if you hit a hard patch or a tough time. There's really nothing to be embarrassed about. There's probably someone else on the planet who's experienced something similar.
A lot of someone's, Lee. And, I could really relate to what you're saying, because I, too, I've been on this journey for 30 years, and so I've hit many rough patches, and people look at you and think, oh, you've got it all together. Certainly you're living at a certain socioeconomic level. And I've come to understand that my greatest wealth is my faith, is my family, my friends, my health. So I'm wealthy in that regard. But it's amazing how people just automatically think that everything has been easy and seamless and effortless, and that you're sparkling all the time, and your resume sounds wonderful. But no one puts in their resume all of the rough spots. And so I really wanted to commend you for, just putting it out there like that and letting everyone know that, it happened to me, but I'm not holding my head down. The Lord is the lifter of my head, and my miracle came, my breakthrough came, And I just want to tell the world, and I just thank you for that, because it was a voice and a message that many people, and I saw all the comments, and people were just like blessed. And if I could share with you all the emails I get every day from people that are on the edge. And sometimes I'll read them and think, today I'm on the edge, but I've got to come out of that funk, and I've got to respond to that person and give them hope. And out of me giving them hope, it gives me hope.
Exactly.
So when I was reading your bio, I thought that